Hi everyone, this is a video tutorial on how to create deep nested level routes using Angular UI Router. It's very common to find apps in which we need to navigate deeper and deeper into an object, and as we navigate we want the state to be preserved and the URL to change. So I've created a project and imported the Angular UI Router library. We have Angular here, our JavaScript file, and our HTML. I've already imported the JavaScript files, so we are good to start. So here we are creating our Angular module. I'm going to call it UI Router example, and we're going to inject UI Router as a dependency. Now that we have the module, we can put the ng app attribute in our HTML and give it the module name. Let's start creating our states now. We call app.config, and then we are going to pass state provider and URL router provider. So our first state is going to be called workspace, and we are going to pass the URL, which is going to be /workspace, and the URL of the template, which is going to be under a templates folder and will be called workspace as well. This is going to be our root state. Now we're going to create another state called workspace.todo, and because I'm calling it workspace, it means that to-do is a child of the workspace state. So I'm gonna give it the URL, which is gonna be /todo, and because to-do is a child of the workspace, the URL is gonna be concatenated. So you're gonna see in the browser /workspace /todo. You don't need to repeat the /workspace because the state name already tells this is a child state. So the template URL, it's gonna be todo.html, and now let's create those files. Now in the workspace template, all I'm gonna do is adding a link to the workspace itself and another link to the to-do list. And now we pass the state names to the UISref attribute, and here it is the to-do list. Now in the to-do list template, all I'm gonna do is adding a title. Now we come back to our JavaScript. What I'm gonna do now is adding a default state. So I'm gonna call the URL router provider and call otherwise and pass the workspace state, which means that if the user adds any URL that does not exist, it is automatically redirected to the workspace. So now if I refresh my page, you're gonna see it went straight to the workspace. Right now in our body, we have to add a div and call the UI view attribute, which is a placeholder that tells UI router that the template is going to be rendered inside this div, right? So we have our workspace and the to-do list, and the URL is /workspace /to-do. But the to-do list title didn't appear, so we're missing another UI view attribute here, because I want to render another template inside this state. So now we can see the to-do list title. Now let's increment this HTML a little bit. I'm gonna add now a list of tasks. So this is gonna be the task 1 inside an anchor tag. And I'm gonna put another one here and call it task 2, and I'm gonna call the UISref because I'm gonna pass a state later. And now I'm gonna copy this and add another list of events. I'll call event 1 and event 2. Now let me add some titles here. Tasks and events. Good. Now if we go to our browser and go through the to-do list, you're gonna see a list of tasks and events. And we'll create some new states now. I'm going to create a task state, but I want this to be a child of the workspace and the to-do list, so I call workspace.todo.task. And now let's pass the URL. In this case, it's going to be /tasks/task ID. And notice here that task ID is an attribute. What tells it is the colon before the attribute name, which makes it accessible to the controller or to the directive. Now let's create a view called to-do, and within the view I'm gonna pass the template URL. So I'm gonna explain you later what this to-do view is for and why I'm not passing the template URL straight within the state. And now let's create another state, which is going to be our event state, also a child of workspace and to-do list, and the URL will be event/event ID, which is the attribute, and the same to-do view passing the template URL. Called event HTML. Now let's create those templates. This is the task template and the event template. So in my task I'm gonna put a title and some random content, and now in the event it's the same. I'm gonna put a title and something here. Good. Now we can go through the to-do list and populate the UI href tag with the corresponding state name. So this one is workspace to-do.task, and because my URL has an attribute, I have to actually pass the value of that attribute. In this case, the ID of the task will be 1, and then here it will be 2. And this is the syntax for you to pass attributes to states. And here it will be also event with the event ID being 1, and here we have event ID being 2. Now if you go to the browser, you're gonna see that the task actually became a link, but if you click, nothing is rendered. So that is why we created that view called to-do in our state declaration. What I have to do now is in the to-do list, I will call the UI view attribute, and I will pass the view name here, which is telling that to UI router that those states are to be rendered in the to-do view, and it looks for a UI view with the name to-do and renders it inside. So now if I refresh the page, you can see the task content as I navigate through the task. Also the events content, and the URL changing with the corresponding attribute ID. Now let's create another state, a state to show the details of an event. So it's going to be a child of workspace, to-do, and event, and the URL will be /details, right? And I'm gonna create another view called details and pass a template URL. So now let's create that template, and I'll just add some random content here. Put where the event is, and also put description of the event. That should be enough. And now here we're gonna add a link to this new state. I'm gonna call it more details, and put the state name here. And let's add the UI view tag and put the view name. Now if we refresh the page, we are able to navigate to an event and see the details of the event. And you can see the URL is composed of workspace, to-do, event with the event ID and details. So thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope it was useful for you. My name is Lucas Garcia, and the link to the source code of this example is in the description of the video.